All right. Again, it's one of those things that will leave us to wonder exactly how he decided that this would better be confronted than shooting as somebody's coming at him with a reported weapon. Adrian Batcher from the Sun telling us last hour that that's the report that they were giving, that the individual had a weapon and a weapon drawn. And then he drops it, gets down on his knees, and that's when the takedown occurs, confronted by a solo Toronto police officer. Very, very interesting. As a last order of business, I guess, the traffic chaos that's ensued because this whole area has been cordoned off. Police tape is going to be there for a while, days anyway, and the subway stopped running north of Shepherd. We've got all these other routes that are being advised to use, and this is where we've got Victoria Arsenault on the scene who can update the traffic situation. Is Victoria there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Victoria. Well, tell us now. I mean, it's obviously chaotic in the commute, you know, at the high water mark right now. I'm sure it's backed things up. And so, all right. Again, it's one of those things that will leave us to wonder exactly how he decided that this would better be confronted than shooting as somebody's coming at him with a reported weapon. Adrian Batcher from the Sun telling us last hour that that's the report that they were giving, that the individual had a weapon and a weapon drawn. And then he drops it, gets down on his knees, and that's when the takedown occurs, confronted by a solo Toronto police officer. Very, very interesting. As a last order of business, I guess, the traffic chaos that's ensued because this whole area has been cordoned off. Police tape is going to be there for a while, days anyway, and the subway stopped running north of Shepherd. We've got all these other routes that are being advised to use, and this is where we've got Victoria Arsenault on the scene who can update the traffic situation. Is Victoria there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Victoria. Well, tell us now. I mean, it's obviously chaotic in the commute, you know, at the high water mark right now. I'm sure it's backed things up. And so what are we advising insofar as routes to use?
Well, for the Yonge and Finch area, obviously Yonge is still closed both ways between just north of the 401 and Finch, and then Finch is closed both ways between Kenneth and Duplex. So we do have some alternatives to recommend. If you're trying to get to Yonge, you can take Willowdale or Senlac, Bayview or Bathurst. And then if you're trying to get to Finch, you can take Steeles or Drury. At last check, Shepherd and Wilson and York Mills were moving pretty slowly. And the westbound and eastbound 401 ramps to northbound Yonge are also still closed because of that as well.
How about the situation around the ACC? Any report on that?
Yeah, so we've been told that the police presence is going to be heightened, obviously, around the Rogers Centre and the ACC. So York Street will be closed between Lakeshore and Front, and there will be no eastbound traffic on Bremnar from Lower Simcoe.
All right, and that's just, well, tonight, the immediate. Boston in town, of course, they're going to protect that area around Maple Leaf Square. Vivian, appreciate it very much, and I guess you'll be on standby for the foreseeable next little while to handle the traffic detail?
That's right.
All right, and so Alex Pearson's coming in just moments. We appreciate that everybody gave us your undivided attention. We had to suspend the regular flow of programming, as you can understand and appreciate, and so we'll get back into some of that, I'm sure, tomorrow, and we've got Alex Pearson coming up after a news update. I want to thank Mary and Mike doing Yo Person's duty on such a tragic day here in the city of Toronto. We're back together again tomorrow after 4. Look for you then.
He just destroyed so many people's lives. I'm sure there's a lot of fatalities out there.
9 people that are dead. 16 that are injured. This is a time when this community should come together. These are not the kinds of things that we expect to happen in this city. We hope they don't happen anywhere in the world, but we especially don't expect them to happen in Toronto.
He killed a lot of people. This bastard killed a lot of people today. He ruined a lot of lives. A lot of people's lives are ruined over this person.
We believe.
Good evening, I'm Brianna Carnegie. Partly cloudy and 17 degrees this hour. The hashtag Toronto Strong is now trending on Twitter. It's in light of this afternoon's van attack that killed 9 people and injured 16 others. A white van mounted the curb and drove down the sidewalk on Yonge near Finch around 1:30 this afternoon. Witnesses described scenes of panic and fear, crowds running for their lives.
And it was like a movie. It was a scene out of a movie when you see bodies laying down at sidewalks, one by one. one by one after another.
The white van was later found on a sidewalk near the area with the front hood completely mangled. Witness video footage shows a dramatic showdown between the suspect and police as the man was seen pointing something at the officer who was approaching. Moments later, the suspect was brought to the ground and taken into custody. Sunnybrook Hospital confirms they've had 10 patients transported this afternoon. 2 of them arrived without vital signs and have since been pronounced dead.
We currently have 5 patients in critical condition and 3 in serious condition.
Dr. Dan Cass says they have set up a support center for those who may be concerned if their loved ones are among the victims. The Yonge & Finch area, meantime, is off limits. Businesses and buildings were asked to close and send everyone home. Toronto
Parking mode on.
That way it's easier for police to carry out their extensive investigation.
The police and the other first responders have a lot of work to do on a very complicated investigation, and it just helps with the task they have in front of them if people are not in this area.
Tonight's Maple Leafs game against Boston is still on at the Air Canada Centre, with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment saying that additional safety measures are in place. Global's Rob Less is at Maple Leaf Square.
Several streets in the immediate area have been closed off to traffic. A forklift was placing large cement blocks outside the Bay Street sidewalk outside the Air Canada Centre earlier and on Bremner.
There are TTC and GO transit diversions in place. Authorities are telling us that Toronto police are leading this investigation and that all available resources have been mobilized. Police Chief Mark Saunders has been out of the city, but he's returning tonight, and he is expected to provide an update. Saunders has been out of the city, but he's returning tonight, and he is expected to provide an update later on. For breaking news alerts, download the free Radio Player Canada app from iTunes or Google Play. In sports, enhanced security measures are in place downtown as action is just about to get underway at the Air Canada Centre. Toronto's Maple Leafs are taking on the Boston Bruins for Game 6 of playoff action. Boston is leading that series 3-2. A look at the forecast. Clear this evening with a couple...
Come on, get down! No, get down! Get down! I'm putting my pocket. I'm putting my pocket. Get down! Get down and get shot!
The first place the mind goes is this terrorism. The RCMP is refusing to confirm that, only saying it has been looped in, but this is, so far, an investigation being handled by Toronto police. Let's bring in News Talk 1010's Dave Bradley.
Those rumblings are coming from the former police commissioner in New York City, Bill Bratton. Says he's spoken to his sources on this side of the border who have told him the suspect is known to police and that this is now a terrorism investigation. Now, we reached out to the RCMP, who earlier said this wasn't terrorism. This time, though, they were cagey, refusing to comment, only saying they were working with Toronto police. CBS is now naming the suspect, citing their sources, saying 25-year-old Alec Manassian was behind the wheel. Now, what we don't know is the motive exactly, or if he'd be affiliated with any organization. Dave Bradley, News Talk 1010.
10 patients were transported to Sunnybrook Hospital. 2 of them were pronounced dead on arrival. 5 remain in critical. 3 are listed in serious condition. Dr. Dan Cass is the Executive Vice President, Chief Medical Officer.
The circumstances certainly are unprecedented, and I think it's a situation that we all prepare for. And as a regional trauma center, we practice, we drill for Code Orange. And as a regional trauma center, we practice, we drill for Code Orange procedures, and our teams were prepared. And I think they acted in an incredibly coordinated fashion.
The Maple Leafs and Bruins have dropped the puck on Game 6 at the ACC. Additional security measures have been put in place. York Street is closed between Lakeshore Boulevard and Front Street. There is no eastbound traffic on Bremner Boulevard from Simcoe Street. Keep it on News Talk 1010, as this is very much a developing story, and we will bring you the very latest as it unfolds. Police Chief Mark Saunders is expected to speak with the media this evening. He was in New York City on business, but canceled all meetings as he's on his way back to Toronto. Take us with you. Download the free iHeart Radio app today and listen on the go. You can find the link at newstalk1010.com. Now let's check the drive. News Talk 1010.
And left dozens others injured. He stands by that killing machine. He looks reckless, pulling out what looks like a weapon. He points it directly at a police officer who has pulled up beside him. It's a standoff. The man yells something. "I've got a gun in my pocket. Kill me." It's hard to make out. But as he waves his arms wildly, he goads that officer into a shooting match. The officer slowly retrieves his gun from his car and then simply stands with robotic restraint. And somehow, he talks the man down until he is arrested. There's no doubt terror has struck one of the busiest streets in the world, just like it did in France, in New York, in Edmonton, in other cities around the world. Toronto now joins the list of cities hit by this new form of terror. We are the lead story across the world where all it takes is a rental and the will to create carnage. For some, it could be religion, ideology, maybe even mental illness. Whatever the reason, this carnage hits too close to home. It's much more personal this time because now it's in our backyard, just up the street. We're everyday people out enjoying the first warm temperatures of spring. Maybe they were grabbing lunch, picking up their child at daycare, taking a stroll, or maybe getting some sun sitting at Mel Lastman Square. It doesn't matter. There were people in our city, members of our community who became targets of convenience, trophies for some ideological bent. 9 dead. 16 others still fight for their lives, and that number can change, and it likely will. Was this a lone wolf? Because what is the motive? Why today? So many questions remain, and people will be scared. Living with... Especially when we start to learn the names and see the faces of those bodies that to this hour still lay on that roadway where police look for answers. And that sadness will likely soon evolve into anger and the realization that this is a new reality and we are not immune. Terror has now targeted Toronto and it has left an unspeakable mark. And that is my point on point for this very, very tragic Monday, April 23rd. I'm Alex Pearson, and I thank you for joining us. We're going to continue our comprehensive coverage all through the night. And this is going to be a different show tonight. A lot of it built as we go along, because a lot of information is
parking mode off.
And we want to be as careful as we can in, well, let's say it, the fake news era. So we need to get it right. And it's been a really hard day. It's been chaotic. It's almost unbelievable to sit back and watch this take place in our own city. Because if you're not familiar with the story or where it happened, maybe you're just getting home from work. We're talking about an area of Toronto that is a massive hub of activity. You know, folks live there. They work. All these new glitzy condos have gone up. So many places to eat. It's a major hub. And it's this stretch of Yonge Street, just south of Finch, heading towards the 401. And that's where police say the suspect jumped onto the sidewalk and plowed through the crowds of what appears to be the west side of the street before he was stopped. And then you stand back and you see those audio shots. And you see those shots of all those orange tarps. And you think, what's under them? And those are human beings. And they still lay out there on that cold pavement tonight. Police are still doing all their investigative work. And just to think, their families are now just coming home. They will be greeted with unimaginable news. And if you were there in that area to see, you know, what would have been absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it's staggering, some of the eyewitness accounts that we are hearing. This is Ali Shaker, who has, I think he encapsulates the raw emotion because he was right behind this as it unfolded. He had a very clear view of what he saw.
I seen this car go on the sidewalk and he just crumbled down one by one. Every single thing that came in his way, he just drove right on it. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Unbelievable.
Listen to the news, Ella.
It is unbelievable. Because he's not just in shock, but that shock will turn into anger because he, I think, like many people are now saying, this was no accident.
He just destroyed so many people's lives. I'm sure there's a lot of fatalities out there. I saw a piece of a body out there. Oh my God.
So many bodies, and those people not coming home. Here were his final thoughts.
He killed a lot of people. This bastard killed a lot of people today. He ruined a lot of lives. A lot of people's lives are ruined over this person.
Do you think it was intentional?
Absolutely, absolutely, 1,000,000%. He did all, he destroyed so many people intentionally. If you hit one person, it's an accident because you know something happened. When you start smashing into people, going in the post boxes where you go and put your mail in, they flew in the, I saw one of them fly in the air. Oh my God.
Mandy called in to Tasha Kierden moments. I mean, this was when I realized what was unfolding, and it was right about the time that I completely folded in my show, realizing this was a terror attack. Here's Mandy.
I saw two bodies on the floor, and at first I didn't know what it was. So I parked my car, went across the street, and I saw a bloody woman, and the Samaritans were pumping their stomach. And I got there right when the ambulance came, and then I saw another person, another older lady, blood, and then I saw three kind of clustered together, and it was just too much for me.
It was too much for Phil. He had to walk by something he's never seen on Yonge Street before, and that would be the visual of bodies piling up.
It was awful, brutal. There's people everywhere. People, there's just shoes and shirts and ball caps on the floor. And some of the bodies were completely covered by blankets, which obviously means they didn't make it. It was brutal, brutal, brutal.
And we still don't have a confirmation of who did this. There's a lot of information that is out there of who the suspect is. We are not going to go with that name. We have not been able to independently confirm this. But I want you to listen, and you've probably heard this, but listen to the moments when the cops pull up to the suspect with his van on the sidewalk and its front all cracked up. And you've literally got this suspect goading police, pretending that he's pulling a gun on them and telling them to shoot him. Take a listen.
Come on, get down! Come on, get down! Get down!
It is unbelievable. It's staggering. The way he actually teases and really tries to provoke the officer right in front of him. And if you watch his arm movements, you'll see how quickly he draws them out of his pocket, like he's pulling a gun out. And to see how calm this officer remained with a gun pointed right at him is spectacular. And it's going to be important because this man is alive. The suspect is alive. And that means we will likely get very, very valuable information. And we are told the RCMP has not yet been called in, but the OPP is going to be looking into doing the investigation, probably working with CSIS. But reports are that it is being looked at as an act of terror. But again, none of the information about the suspect has yet been confirmed, so we're going to wait until we get that confirmation, and hopefully we'll have that later in the show, or we could have it in 5 minutes, but when we get that confirmation, we will talk. Mayor John Tory, the Premier, all went up to the scene, and here was Mayor John Tory talking to a city that really, I think it's going to take some time before Toronto gets its head around what happened, but here's Mayor Tory at the scene.
And I can assure you, having been at a briefing that we've just completed in the last while, that we are very well served and were from the first moment that this became known to the authorities, and that I want to assure people that the city is in safe hands at the moment. I also want to say that this is a time when this community should come together. These are not the kinds of things that we expect to happen in this city. We hope they don't happen anywhere in the world, but we especially don't expect them to happen in Toronto.
No, we don't. No, we don't. And there are a lot of questions. So there's questions of, who was this guy? Was this person on watch list? Was he known to police? Were there signs? All of that information is being looked into. No question. And Chief Mark Saunders, who had been away, I guess on vacation, he is said to be making his way back. We are expecting a live press conference with him just after the 8 o'clock hour, so we will bring that to you live. And should note, there's a very big hockey game on today in Toronto. Right now, thousands and thousands of people are in the core and doing the tailgate party. And police have had to increase security, and all sorts of measures have had to be put into place because we don't know what the motive was here. We don't know if this is a lone wolf attack. We don't know if there are others, if it's a cell. No one knows, so they can't take any chances. But we have a lot of extensive coverage to go through over the next couple of hours, and we'll bring all that to you as we continue to build a narrative and get the story right. We'll take a quick break here at 7:14, and when we come back, we will join Farah Nasser, who is our Global News anchor. She is out on the at the scene tonight, and she'll bring us the latest from her perspective, because when you're on the ground, it is always very, very different to being here in a studio. So we'll pick up that angle of the story when we come back. I'm Alex Pearson. This is special coverage here on Global News Radio.
Rental Trucks has issued a statement. When we come back, I will read you that, and we will open the phone lines now, 416-872-1010. Text.
So when Tim had passed, they asked Trist if he wanted to join the group. He did. They continue on, and the new record features a little bit of I think a little Trist touch, produced a little differently, using some technology differently, and a little bit of a different sound in terms even of the arrangement and the approach on the tunes. So if you're a fan of Manhattan Transfer, I think you're going to like this record. It's got a little bit of a modern touch to it, and I'm digging it so far.